everyone, and welcome to this special Inauguration Day edition of the 700 Club. Well, after one of the longest, most expensive, and strangest elections in American history, Donald Trump becomes the 45th president of the United States today, and he clearly intends to get off to a very fast start, with new executive orders to come possibly as soon as today. David Brody brings us this look at Trump's plans for his first 100 days.
You could potentially accomplish a lot in 100 days. You could lose weight, you could walk from New York to Los Angeles at a brisk pace, or even write the U.S. Constitution. All big victories. That's what President Trump hopes for in his first 100 days.
I think the first couple months for Donald Trump is going to be very intense because he wants wins. He really wants points on the board.
At Real Clear Politics, A.B. Stoddard knows what presidents face in this town. She says Trump is about to get a dose of congressional reality.
He's going to find that it's not a boardroom and that you have to do some care and feeding of members of Congress, or in the end you lose.
While the to-do list is fairly long, the priority of tax reform will be a complex task.
It's very, very tricky to try to take away any of the carve-outs in the tax code. There's a constituency and a lobby for everyone, and it's been tried before.
Trump has already talked infrastructure improvement, and Democrats seem willing to work with him on it. Then, of course, there's repealing and replacing Obamacare.
The conservatives that have been waiting for this since 2010 will demand this. This is year 7, and they need some kind of action right away.
Evangelicals want results, too. From the defunding of Planned Parenthood to Trump fulfilling his promise to repeal the Johnson Amendment, which muzzles pastors in the pulpit.
Free speech is being taken away from people that are great people, from people that are saying good things, not bad things.
But Trump's biggest move could happen within just weeks of taking the oath.
High profile, the Supreme Court pick. Crucial to everything, sets the tone at the beginning, I would think. He's got to come out strong there.
That pick, which is coming in 2 weeks after he's inaugurated, is going to be such an important beginning. Many voters voted for Donald Trump with a stomachache because they want a Supreme Court with 3 more conservative justices on it, or at least 1 or 2, possibly 3. And that, to many voters, was the sole reason for voting for Donald Trump.
As the country waits for that name, Trump will be busy with pen in hand. The plan? Reverse many of Obama executive actions and end burdensome federal and environmental regulations. The new president won't need Congress to approve the Keystone Pipeline or leave the Trans-Pacific Partnership trade deal that Obama put in place, but lawmakers never approved. Trump can also stop climate change payments to the United Nations. It's a lot to keep up with, so sign up for Twitter, because that's where you're going to find the new bully pulpit of the presidency, as the new Commander-in-Chief Trump breaks new ground by going directly to the people as Tweeter-in-Chief.
Well, David Brody is with us now from our Washington bureau. David, it's good to have you with us today. Is it Trump's basic belief? Does he feel like he was elected to make change and so absolutely intends for that to be the focus?
There's no question about that, Terry. I think that has been the case, and quite frankly, it really hadn't been the case at the beginning of this campaign. But as the campaign went along, he realized he had a basket full of deplorables that were with him all around the country. And Terry, this was the Democrats' biggest fear. I remember talking to a Democrat strategist about 9 months ago. This was roughly about 6 months into the campaign, and they said, look, if Donald Trump actually becomes the GOP nominee against Hillary Clinton, our biggest fear is that Rust Belt, that means Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, those states, those Rust Belt, older white Americans who are Reagan Democrats will come out in support of Trump because he's speaking their language. And boy, for a brash billionaire to talk like a cab driver and relate to folks like that, it's quite a political skill. He has been able to do that, and I think we're authentically going to see that here in mere hours.
Well, David, this is Pat, and hey, man, what a day, 45. Who, you know, David, I don't know about you, but I think that Trump is going to be a transformational figure. I think he's going to go down in history as one of the great presidents of all time. Do you share my view or not? Is that too over the top?
Well, I can confirm that he shares your view, Pat. I don't think there's any question about it. Look, I think the bottom line with Donald Trump is he doesn't have time for all the silly nonsense that goes on in Washington. And I think what you're going to see, as a matter of fact, the parade, which normally is like 3 hours, this inaugural parade, he says, like, enough with the 3-hour parade. I want an hour and a half because I got to get to work. He's going to go visit the CIA on Saturday, or the FBI, excuse me, on Saturday. It's not a weekend for Donald Trump. So this guy has no problem here getting down to make sure what's done in Washington gets done. And I think that's the key. As a matter of fact, I can see him now, Pat, where he literally looks around at all the pomp and circumstance and says, well, this is very nice, very elegant, but really, let's just get to work.
David, you know, I understand that he's forecasting cuts of $10 trillion. I mean, this is major, but it's overdue.
Yeah, we're looking at the Commerce Department, the Energy Department, and in essence, he's going to get rid of a lot of that waste that we've heard for years about. But let's face it, the establishment, Republican and Democrat, have had no desire to get rid of those pork projects or some of what that excess waste is all around Washington. So yes, he's going to do that. It could be $10 trillion over 10 years. The National Endowment for Arts, we know about that liberal gobbledygook, if you will. That should be gone. He's looking at privatizing PBS, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. So there are going to be a lot of changes coming, and they'll happen quickly, Pat, especially as it relates to executive orders.
Well, that's the slush fund for liberals. I mean, that National Endowment for the Arts, that Mapplethorpe, I remember standing up against the horrible things that man did. It was disgusting, obscene, and nasty. And yet we've had to pay for it. You remember the leaping lesbian follies? And I said, if the lesbians want to leap in folly, they can do it on their own money, not on mine. Okay, David, it looks like Trump has more evangelicals in his administration than any president. How much influence do you think they're going to have?
Huge. Pat, this is huge. Let's go down the list. In the West Wing, you've got, obviously, Mike Pence, Kellyanne Conway, born-again evangelical, Reince Priebus, an evangelical, faith very important to him. So you've got the White House Chief of Staff, a senior advisor, and the Vice President, all as true blue, if you will, believers. And then you go to the cabinet and you have Ben Carson, you have Betsy DeVos, and you have others as well, Mike Pompeo. And so you put all of this in totality and you say, my goodness gracious, what a list of characters, if you will, evangelical characters. And let's not forget Sean Spicer, a pro-life, I was about to call him a pro-life Democrat. What am I talking about? A pro-life Catholic who wears his faith actually a bit on his sleeve, too. And we had a chance to speak with Sean Spicer, Pat, Jennifer and I, up in Trump Tower last week at an off-the-record meeting, and there are changes to come. This administration, we're in tight with this administration as it relates to being on the ground and understanding the pulse of what's going to happen. So keep it here. We're going to have quite a bit to share.
One last fight they've got is tax reform. Everybody knows the code needs fixing. The lobbyists are going to be going for their piece of the pie. What do you think? Is going to be a huge fight over it?
There's going to be a big fight over tax reform, but there is an expectation up here in Washington that will get done. So the question then becomes, Pat, what happens in the first 100 days? Do not expect any sort of tax reform package to actually get signed into law by President Trump. I can't believe I just said those words. I said those words, Pat. Whoever thought I would say those words? President Trump in the first 100 days. Instead, I think what you'll see at the end of 100 days is a framework for tax reform. It is complicated. You're right. The lobbyists will be up in arms left and right, literally left and right. And so when you put it all together, the framework will be there at the end of 100 days, but then maybe expect something in April, maybe May, actually, as it relates to tax reform being on the president's desk.
David, it's a new day. There's happiness in Washington. Is there? Well, anyhow, we'll talk more about it. Thank you for covering. Appreciate it.
You bet. Thanks, Pat.
Well, there are many influential people in Washington as the Trump administration comes into office. The question is, who will be the most powerful? Our Jenna Browder brings us this look at 3 key Washington insiders.
3 wheelers and dealers at the center of the Trump administration. Vice President-elect Mike Pence, Speaker of the House Paul Ryan, and soon-to-be Chief of Staff Reince Priebus.
What's your overall impression of each one of these men?
Well, I think that they're really in a different league.
Former House Speaker Newt Gingrich, who knows a thing or two about Washington, sees Pence as perhaps the most important.
He's like the moon to Trump's sun.
Gingrich thinks Pence can carry the load on Capitol Hill by using his experience and close ties to lawmakers.
Pence will be really important at saying, you know, this hasn't quite gone over up on the Hill, or the Hill's raised these new questions, or Senator Jones came by to see me and he has this problem we need to solve. So he becomes a gatherer of information that's very important on the outside.
His friendly relationship with Ryan will also prove critical and help smooth out any bumps between the Speaker and new president.
Paul Ryan did not want Donald Trump in the primaries. He made that perfectly clear, and once Trump was the nominee and remained a really controversial figure, doing things that Republicans could not defend.
A.B. Stoddard with Real Clear Politics says Ryan is in an especially tough position.
It's a big burden on the Speaker of the House to try to shepherd through, first of all, keep his ranks together, hold a united front against Democrats, and then keep some cohesion with the president and the executive branch to pass an agenda through in a very polarized time without eruptions on Twitter from Donald Trump.
At the other end of Pennsylvania Avenue will be Trump's right-hand man and White House Chief of Staff, who's known both Pence and Ryan for decades.
In having an effective day-to-day operation, Reince Priebus has clearly got the primary burden. That's what he's going to focus on, is making the train run on time.
In your opinion, what's the key to making this situation work?
I think the key is open communication, having coffee together regularly. It's not always the business meeting where you look each other in the eye and you're negotiating. Sometimes it's sitting around chatting, and letting things bubble up.
And on the flip side, what do you think it would take to tear it all apart?
One of them to try to decide that they were clever and that they were going to somehow operate in a deceitful way, or operate by being sneaky. I think that person wouldn't last very long.
All three here for a reason: to get results. In other words, to turn bills into laws. A unique combination, bringing a president who won as an outsider together with insider know-how to turn his vision of Make America Great Again into reality. In Washington, Jenna Browder, CBN News.
Thanks, Jenna. Well, our correspondent Abigail Robertson joins us now from the rooftop of 101 Constitution Avenue with a spectacular view of the west front of the Capitol, where President-elect Donald Trump will soon be sworn in. Abby, tell us about what's going on in Washington.
Oh man, it is an exciting time in Washington. The first family arrived yesterday afternoon, and they started the day at Arlington Cemetery laying wreaths, and then went to the welcome ceremony at Lincoln Memorial, which I had the pleasure of attending. It was a beautifully done event with lots of performers like Three Doors Down and country music star Toby Keith. It ended with great spectacular firework display, and then they had a gala last night at Union Station, and now there are already thousands of people here ready for the swearing in.
Well, how tight has the security been? I know that there's been some talk of a demonstration, but how much security is in place?
I have never seen so much security in Washington before, but I also have never seen so many protesters. They have been in front of my apartment every night this week. I even had the pleasure of hearing their encore performance at 2 a.m. last night. But the security team is just doing a fabulous job. I feel very, very safe. They are everywhere, all over the city, and they really have things under control.
Well, Trump faced opposition from congressional Republicans during the primaries. You've talked with some key senators, McCain, Rand Paul, Lindsey Graham. What did they tell you?
Well, so Senator Graham and McCain will probably be two of Trump's kind of biggest GOP critics, and both of them said that, you know, they're kind of on board with a lot of what Trump wants to do. Senator Graham told me he's all for Trump's tax reform, boosting the military, and electing pro-life leaders to the Supreme Court. But they really disagree with his stance on Russia right now and want him to kind of toughen up against Russia and increase sanctions for meddling in the November elections.
Well, Trump is saying things like, I love Paul Ryan. How close is the team working with the Republicans in Congress?
He's working very closely with Republican leaders. I think they all realize that they need to take advantage of this three-branch control to really get their priorities passed into law. So they're all trying to get on the same page to get some bills together that they can all agree with.
One last question. There's talk about cutting funding for the UN because of what the UN did in relation to Israel. Is that going to go anywhere, do you think?
I think so. When I spoke to Senator Graham, he is in charge of foreign operations funding, and he said that for the past year, he has warned the UN that if they tried to pass a resolution against Israel before Obama and Kerry took office, that Obama and Kerry would not veto, that he would take action. And currently, the U.S. funds 21% of the UN's annual budget. So he thinks that this bill that he's proposed alongside Senator Ted Cruz is really going to get their attention and make them rethink this resolution.
Well, Abigail, thank you. I know it's an exciting day for you, so stay warm and stay safe, and we'll talk to you later, okay?
All right, I will.